Okay.
Okay. And from there, as he was called to pastor, I followed him and was in the church, and of course, growing in the church, being a part of, as a young kid, sometimes sometimes you're pushed into different ministries, especially being a pastor's kid. They always want the pastor's kids to be in everything and do everything. And to me, it was a good thing because the more I got involved in, the closer my walk with Christ got, the more I understood him, the more my relationship built with him. And it was there even in Sunday school. Sunday school to me is so valuable in growing up in a church as a kid, because that's where you really can learn who God is, what he did for you. And growing up from the beginners class, we had different stages of classes all the way up to the adult classes. It really, you grew as you grew up. So it was there, once again, that the more I stayed in Sunday school, Bible studies, prayer meetings, joining, some of the auxiliaries in the church, it all produced so much and so much growth in me. And from there, as I got older in my, I guess my early 20s, I felt as though my dad had took me as far as he could, in the church and in ministry. And I had found another church that I said, you listen, I said, the Lord is leading me somewhere else. And my father, and I never forget these words, one thing he taught me was you have to go where you can grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, but I was so worried about leaving him because I had been with him for so long. And again, I'm in my early 20s now, starting out, you talk about starting out at the age of 5, and now here I am in my early 20s, all that long time being under him and his ministries. It was hard because that was my dad.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that he had took me as far as he can go, and I had to learn some things on my own now. Now that the seed has been planted and watered, now I had to go out and really do things on my own, in Christ. And I was thankful that he allowed me to do that, because had he not allowed me to do that, I wouldn't be where I am now, doing the things that I am now. So
Mm-hmm.
I would be, eternally grateful for that.
Okay.
So, and it just went from there. Learning and doing things, eventually, I ended up getting the call to become a preacher of the gospel myself. And that was hard, because the way my brother and I, grew up, I always saw the call on my brother. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody knew that my brother had the call. And I was always the one like supporting everybody. But in the background, growing up, my seeds were being watered, but in a different way. And it wasn't until I, right before I met my husband, um, some things started happening at my job. We have chapel service at my job on Thursdays in the afternoon at 12 o'clock, and I was a part of that. And it wasn't until Elder Christina Grayson, she started pushing me into some things, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm not, and she allowed me to, start off with intercessory prayer, and opening up the services for the chapel services. And then the more I did that, the more she, saw in me, and she said, the Lord is calling you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, because, I don't know if anybody else, and I know you probably been in the same place. Sometimes when you hear the call, you don't want to rush to that. You don't want to just jump in it, because, it's a real big task to do. And when you jump in it, you want to make sure that you're doing it right, because you don't want to displease God. You don't want to, do anything to shame him. So when you accept the call, you want to make sure that you heard the call correctly. And you know, because a lot of people sometimes, I don't want to get too far off, but a lot of people sometimes want to rush into that for the title and for the fame and not for the true will of God. So
Right.
as she began to see that in me, she began to push me and allowed me to, you know, give inspirational messages, and it just went on from there, and I ended up here. You know, and actually, you know, under your mom, at the Ark of Safety Deliverance Center in Jersey City, and that
128 Mallory, just go,
experience.
just go. If you're in the area, just go. I promise you, it's a good time. You're gonna have a good time in the Lord. You're gonna have a good time. You're gonna get blessed. You will not leave there the same way that you come. I promise.
I can't really hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Can you hear me now?
It's very low. I think something happened on my end when I got kicked out.
Let me see.
And my volume is all the way up.
What about now?
It's still very low. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. It got really, really low. Try to say something now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you better. I put my headphones on. Is that clear? Am I
Yeah.
clear?
I was saying, I was just telling people to go to 128 Mallory, Jersey City, New Jersey, 07304.
Yes.
You're gonna have a good time in the
Yes.
Lord. You will have a good time in the Lord. You will leave there with a word. You will not leave there the same way that you came. So just go.
No. Not at all. So
I watched. By the time you guys see this, it would now be 2 weeks that they did a sevenfold word, and everybody in the church that is that is some. So you have prophet, you have my mom, Pastor Jay, evangelist, minister, Dr. Casey, who was the associate pastor, every Minister Mark, everybody gave a word, and I was like, dang, I missed out. But I got to watch it, and it was like, it was so good. It was so good. So you guys, I encourage you, if you are in the area, please go. Now, I'm not just saying that because it's my mom's church, but you really will get a word. You really will get a word. Most definitely. Okay, you want to get into it? To the good stuff? All right. So, from your perspective, or in your perspective, what is kingdom dating?
Well, kingdom dating is almost as similar as dating if you wasn't in the kingdom. I'm actually a product of kingdom dating. My husband, my now husband, we actually met at church. And it was funny because him and I really didn't know each other. We had seen each other in passing, but never connected until years later through a mutual friend. And when we began to date, it was almost similar to dating anybody else. But it was funny because his father was a pastor, my father was a pastor, so we didn't even know, at that time we were two PKs, dating, and everybody was like looking at us like, how did two preachers' kids get together? We like, just like everybody else get together. Just because our fathers are in ministry, does that mean that we're not supposed to date? But in retrospect for that, as we were dating, we had mutual respect for one another, because we grew up with the values of church. So we knew how to conduct ourselves. We knew how, the respect factor of not only us representing who our parents was, because, when people associate you with your parents, there's a certain standard
that you have to keep too, and people are looking at you. So you have to be mindful that you're not only representing God, you're not only representing yourself, but you're representing where you came from. So we have to constantly keep that over our heads, but at the same time, still be us. We still went out on dates. We went to dinners. Sometimes we just sat in the car and talked. We would go to the park, sit in the car and talk just to get to know one another. There were times where we would get out the car and walk the park. Because in dating, a lot of people think that, you've always got to spend money and you always got to do this, but you can be very creative in dating. The mere factor of getting, being in a relationship is getting to know one another, getting to see what that person is really all about, and what better way into spending time, and quality time, whether it be on the phone or face to face. And my husband and I had a lot of those moments where it was times that I would get off of work, he would get off of work, and he'll hit me up, "What are you doing?" "Nothing, I just got to work." "But you're hungry? Let's go grab something to eat." And we would sit over dinner and really talk and have conversation, and we would laugh, and we were, it wasn't always about church. Sometimes you have to find common ground outside of church, because even though, that was our foundation, but it's a part of us, but there's a whole world outside of church that, we realized that we had more things in common than we did. He kind of grew up a little bit differently than I did in the church because he came from a Pentecostal based background. So there was a lot of experiences that he could not experience that I did. Like, my dad took us to the movies. We went on different trips and things like that. If anybody know about a Pentecostal background, a lot of things they didn't do. They didn't go to the movies. They was in church almost 24/7, like every night of the week. And then on the weekends, it was church from sun up to sundown. So a lot of things I had experienced, he didn't really have that. But still in that, we still had mutual things that brought us together, and we were able to do things that brought us together without the sex. Because let's be real. This day and age, there ain't too many people that have saved themselves for marriage. They as they're dating, they get a little piece of the pie. Let's just be real, put it out there. But you have to learn that, again, the representation who you want to be for yourself first. You have to respect yourself first in order for someone else to respect you. So you have to set up certain values and standards within yourself if you are, in dating, period. There are certain things that you should be mindful of who you are and what you want. That you want to make yourself clear in that. And if you're starting to deal with someone that doesn't understand your standards, then maybe he ain't the one for you. But again, there's certain things that you have to set from the door in those conversations, because then you'll know, should I go on? Should I, now I know, what you're looking for. There has to be some common ground, and there have to be some decisions being made in that, whether you should go on or whether you should, what, I think we just should just remain friends. If I see you, I see you, but, again, there were certain things that kept us connected with one another. And even, we began to go to church together. My husband was a musician and still is a musician. So he was connected to a quartet group at the time. And I love quartet music. So a lot of times I would go with him and, support him in that. And that, of course, drew us closer together to eventually we, again, got married. But in that dating period, sometimes it was hard, sometimes it wasn't, because, in dating, feelings grow, things grow between, you and your, the person you're dating. And, sometimes, back in the day, grandmama and big mama, and they was like, if you kiss, you become pregnant, because certain things can lead up to, so you still have to be mindful, even in that. But again, it goes to respect your body, and what you want, in that. And sometimes in that part, again, it's hard to decide, to give yourself to this person, even knowing the word of God, because the word of God said that we're supposed to save ourselves for marriage. The marriage bed is undefiled. It doesn't say the single bed is undefiled. It says the marriage bed is undefiled. So we are supposed to abstain for certain things, in dating. But again, we're human, we flesh, we get weak, and sometimes those things happen. But again, you have to be mindful. You have to be careful. But I thank God that, we did, eventually ended up getting married. And we do have, a daughter together. And he had children from his previous marriage. I had a daughter from my previous marriage. This is actually our second marriage, each of us. And I think this is the longest, that him and I, have been married in both of our previous marriages. We actually, on the 23rd of this month, we're actually going to be celebrating our anniversary, of 14 years. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. Those years wasn't always easy, but marriage, again, is what you make it. But again, with the dating aspect of it, it was fun. It was enjoyable. We were able to have good times and not put ourselves in situations that will cause us to do other things. Times were close. Let's be honest, times were close, but we still was able to, respect ourselves and do what we needed to do.
That's so good. I like dating just for the simple fact that my love language is quality time, right? I love to spend time with anybody. Like that's my love language. That's how we don't even have to be talking. As long as I'm like there, you're there, I'm fine. But parked car conversations are my favorite types of dates because you really don't have to spend money. We can go get milkshakes and fries and just sit there and talk, and that's the best time. That is, oh my goodness, that's like my favorite. But even like, I feel like in the stages of getting to know each other, you really shouldn't be spending a whole bunch of money because you're getting to know each other. So let's do stuff that causes us to speak. Let's do stuff that causes us to talk to each other, or just fun stuff. Like, let's go to the arcade. Are you good at games?
Right.
Like, let's do stuff like that. I feel like the more expensive dates are when you like, all right, y'all are engaged and y'all are married, or y'all like well into your relationship, and it's like, okay, now we really like, spend time with each other and things like that. Like, if I'm getting to know somebody, I really don't want to do it over dinner because I want to eat.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on my food. But, I don't know. That's how I look at dating. Like, it's cool. Dinner's fine. But, like, let's just talk. We don't really have to spend a whole bunch of money. We really don't.
Yeah, and it was funny because a couple of times we did go to like arcades, and we would go down to, at that time Boatcraft was still open on Route 22. We even, me and him just, two big kids in a kiddie amusement park having a ball, having a like, and it's moments like that, like you said, that quality time of having fun and getting to know each other helps build the relationship, and it keeps your mind off of, other things, other temptations, because you just worrying about having fun and enjoying one another. So
okay, so next question is, how should a woman date? And I ask this because, the Bible says that a man should find a wife. So, right. We live in a culture now where it's like, shoot your shot. Like, for a woman, shoot your shot. Or go after them, or whatever it should be. And it's like, I don't know. So how do you think a woman should date?
Cautiously. You have to first evaluate yourself before you put yourself out there. We all have problems. We all have issues, but again, sometimes you have to review yourself and say, okay, what am I looking for? What do I want? What am I willing to accept? What am I willing not to accept? um, how I want that person to see me, you know, and just like start there first before you go out there, because sometimes, you know, out here now is so many different walks of life that's out here. So many people are, you know, hidden in the closet that you don't know. They're, you know, sometimes they go, you know, both ways and you don't know. You thinking, you know, this and that. So it's so, the times have changed so much since I was dating, to now. To me, this day and age is a little bit harder to date than it was dating back, you know, when I was dating. Not to say I'm so old, but again, you guys have a little bit more tougher time because, you know, a lot of the men now, some of them are locked up in jail. Some of them, you know, don't have jobs. They just out here in the streets. They're, you know, don't have anything going for themselves. And, you know, sometimes most of the men at church are married, or, you know, sometimes they just, you know, have other walks of life. You know, let's be truthful. It's in the church. Um, and so it's a little bit more difficult now, I think, for your generation to date, because sometimes availability is not there as much as you would desire it to be. But when you do find someone, again, your standards is important. How you represent yourself is important, because if you don't respect yourself, they're not going to respect you. If you put yourself out there to be a certain way, easy, or, you know, whatever, they're going to come for you. You know, you are what you attract. So sometimes you got to look in yourself in your mirror and say, what am I doing? What am I attracting? You know, if you know, I think nephew said a couple weeks ago when y'all did his interview, you really have to, how can I say, you have to value yourself. You have to, you know, say, you know, go to God. You know, okay, Lord, I'm a wife before I'm anything. By the time a man finds you, you should already be wife material. I think that's what he said. And we, you know, as women, sometimes we don't put ourselves out there to look like that we are already a wife when we're found. So, you know, sometimes, and that's the part that's sometimes difficult on the other end. But if we look at ourselves and say, look, I know I'm wife material because I have these qualities. I have, you know, this is what, you know, I have respect for myself. I can stand on my own, but I also can be a you know, a helpmate to you. I also can, you know, I can cook, I can clean, I can do some things, you know, and I think some of those attributes of women nowadays are not there. There are a lot of women now that can't cook or don't want to cook. Sometimes they, you know, they want the man to take care of them, but they don't want to do their part to take care of the man. So there's a lot of different things that we as women have to evaluate ourselves to prepare to date, let alone marriage. You know, so I think we as women first, once we have our relationship with God and allow God to mold us and shape us first and submit to Him first, He can clean us up and prepare us, you know, into how to become what we're looking for. And He can clean us up on the things that will mean the person no good, because, you know, God already know who our husband's going to be. God already know who He's going to link us up with. But there's a preparation time with us that has to come before He gives that to us. Sometimes we have to meet the wrong person in order to, you know, in preparation for the right person. So there are some things within ourselves that we have to take that first step first.
That's so good. That's so good. I believe I was even saying in my interview with Zach, like when you, because he had mentioned, like, he goes to the throne room, like, all right, God, you know, I'm ready when you send me my wife. And then it's like, and I agree with him, because that's something that I do. Like, all right, God, I think I'm ready for my person. Am I ready? You know, and coming to God with humbleness, because while I may think I'm ready, because I haven't found my person yet, that must mean that there's still something that you want to do with me. So what is it? So when you go to God asking Him for your partner, it's like, prepare me for them? What do I need to do?
Right.
What is it that you are trying to do with me that you want me to learn so that I know how to handle them? Because I never want to mishandle somebody that he gave me, right?
Amen.
I'm so glad that you said that, because we did talk about it a little bit in the episode last week, but it's like, that's such an important thing, because you have to be really, really specific with how you pray to God. You'll ask for something, you'll ask for this big thing, and he'll give you the ingredients to do it. And you have to figure it out, but you'll be upset because, you asked for rice pudding, he just gave you the rice, and you have to figure out how to make it into a pudding. He gave you all the ingredients that you need. You never put it together. So it's like, all right, prepare me. Tell me, download into me what it is you need me to do, who you want me to be. And it also go along with like just knowing who you are in Christ. Like, I cannot date anybody and I don't know me. I don't know my identity.
Right.
Because like, even with respect, in order for me to respect myself, I have to know myself. I have to know what I love. I have to know what I don't like. I have to know because I'll just be, getting into anything. So
right,
know myself, and then respect myself, and then love myself. And
that's it right there.
Yeah. So that's so good.
And, to piggyback off of that, a lot of times we as women too, we got to learn to love ourselves. We it's so easy for us to love everybody else, but sometimes when it comes to ourselves, we neglect ourselves, so sometimes, we have to get in that mirror and sometimes talk to ourselves. I think it's Mary J. Blige that got a new song out saying, "Good Morning, Gorgeous." Sometimes we got to get to that point where we can look at ourselves and know that we're beautiful, know that we are valued, know that we have something to give in ourselves, and it won't take a man to tell us. Sometimes we got to already know it before that man gets to us.
Absolutely. That was something that I used to struggle with before. And what advice I can give anybody that is in that place, like your self-esteem isn't all the way there, or you don't love yourself, I would encourage you to do affirmations and biblical affirmations, because God does not describe us as anything less than an heir. We're royalty, so like, he loves us. So it's like, do affirmations, but do biblical affirmations, like, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Like, you got to tell yourself that in a mirror. God made us like him, like in his image, like, and God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. Like, this, that means you're good. Like, there's no mistake. He did not make a mistake with you. He loved you. He knew you before you knew you. So therefore, do those affirmations in the mirror. I promise it'll change your life. You'll start speaking so highly of yourself that you don't even realize that you're doing it. Like, I would never allow someone to treat me less than how I see me. Period.
Right. That part.
That part. How best, because we were already talking about this, preparation, how best should a woman prepare for her husband?
Well, the main thing is, if you don't know, get with the wisdom. We have so many resources out here now. When I was growing up, my grandmother, my aunties, my mom, people like that, they would help prepare you with some of the things and some of the attributes you would need to become a wife. The home life, how to, it starts off as a kid, when you get up in the morning, you make up your bed, you make sure, you iron your clothes, you do this, there's certain aspects, how to keep yourself clean. how to keep yourself clean, women, how to keep yourself clean. I can't express that enough, because that's part of preparing to, meet your husband. Also, getting in the kitchen, how to not only clean yourself, but how to clean a house, how to keep, your house clean, how to keep your car clean, certain things, with preparation, for you as a child growing up. So that way, when you came into your own, get your own home, or, begin to, become a mother and a wife, you already knew what to do. And you were able to pass on those things down to, your kids, and, especially if you have daughters, because I have 2 girls, and, even just yesterday I had to y'all come in here. Let me show you, X, Y, and Z. It's important that we as women keep those values and pass those values on, because you are preparing, when you have children, you are preparing them to go out into the world, and you're preparing them to become a wife. You have to make sure that those values that you knew from great grandmama and grandma, those things still work today. They'll never go out of style. But sometimes there has been a breakdown where there was a generational gap that happened, that some of those values was not passed on to the young ladies today. Some of these young ladies out here today don't really know how to act, how to dress, how to look, how to cook, how to clean, but those things were passed on through me. I knew, I could not go out here in the street walking around in pajamas and a bonnet in my head and all the other stuff, because, let's tell the truth, this is what happens today, but back in my day, I couldn't have dared walked out the house looking like that. No, you present yourself presentable. When you come out this house, your body is washed, your teeth is clean, your hair is done. You got on decent clothes. You have to look a certain way, because that's who I'm making you to be. I don't want you looking out, walking out of the house raggedy. That was the thing in my term. No, you're not going to come out of here looking raggedy. You are going to come out to be presentable to the world. And that was part of preparation. And still to this day, it's a lot of women that are in the church, a lot of the women didn't grow up the way I did. So my advice is to, my generation, mentorship, start taking, if you see a young lady that quite don't have the values that you grew up on, begin to teach, maybe she had nobody in life to show her, nah, baby, you don't have to look like that to get a man. You don't have to put yourself out there, to get a man like that. A man will respect you more if you covered up, because, a lot of this time, at this day and age, you see a lot of these young girls, they're wearing any old kind of way and revealing their bodies and things like that. But again, there was no one to teach them that, baby, no, you don't have to do that. A man will respect you more if you covered up, because our bodies really is supposed to be for our husbands. Our bodies, we're not supposed to show the world what we got. That's for our husbands in the bedroom. But again, the knowledge that we have, and sometimes the church in this day and age, sometimes the church don't want to touch on those things like they did back then. The church don't help prepare, young ladies. And I think we need to get back to those things. There's nothing wrong with having, when we have these women's conferences and things like that, we should start to incorporate some values that, how to dress. Like, to this day, I still wear a slip. Sometimes, because that's the way I was brought up, baby, you need to slip on under that dress. I can see right through it, A lot of women, again, don't know how to cook, don't know how to clean. They don't know, basic things that will help them and prepare them for marriage. So I think that if we get back to some of those things, it will help women view themselves better than what they do, and they will be easier to be prepared, that when they go out here and a man is looking at them, they'll automatically know what kind of woman they are just by the look.
Yeah, that's so good. That's really good. What are some things a woman should have or know before going into marriage? And I mean, we just talked about like how to cook, how to clean, but what are some like mental things that they should know? Because when you're single, it's about you. That's it should be about you and God and what He's doing in your life. But marriage, it's not just me. It's another person, and it may be children too. Because you get married and you have kids. So, like, what's some things that a woman should know for going into marriage? So we could talk about that, and we could Because I know it's going to lead right into submission. So if you want to, you could just segue your way right into
that. Well, mentally, again, those values that we just talked about will help you prepare for that. And also, you have to learn that, how to share your love. Sometimes, again, single, like you said, I'm by myself. I just love myself. I don't have to, answer to anybody. I don't have to do this. It's just me. But when you begin to date and become, in preparation of becoming a wife, you have to learn how to give love, how to open up your heart to somebody else. And sometimes, if you have been single for so long, sometimes you don't understand how to do that because you never had to do it before. You never had to share your heart with anybody else, but God or your family and your parents and things of that nature. But it's a different kind of love when you begin to date someone. Your heart goes a different way than the love of your family, the love of your parents. And I think that I was fortunate enough to have a father in my life to show me some different things. Because before, as I was growing up, my father would take the time out and take me out on different things and show me what a man should do. Make sure he opens up the door for you when he comes. When he comes to pick you up, don't if he honks that horn, don't you move. Let him come to the door and ring the doorbell and ask for you. Open up the car door for you and close the door. Open up the door for you when you go out to the restaurant. You don't walk ahead of him. You let him walk in front, ahead of you. When you're going up the stairs or down the stairs, he should be walking, a certain way. So it was certain things that my dad had implanted in me before I started dating. He would, show me different parts of the world. Like my father took me on different trips because one thing that he talked to me about in the conversation was, I don't want a man to come up to you and start dating you and giving you these things that you never received, and then you just want to open up your legs to him and all this other stuff. He has to come better than that because I'm going to be the first one to give you your first diamond. I'm going to be the first one to take you here. I'm going to make sure you take on the limousine trips and all this other stuff. And he did that. So by the time I got into the dating field, none of those materialistic things mattered to me because I've already had it. So it made the man step his game up because what could you give me now that I didn't already have? So you got to give me something better, than what I already received. Material things don't mean nothing to me. They're nice to have, but I already got that. So what else can you give me? So it leaves, and I think that's vital in a woman or a young lady to have some kind of man in their life that will help show those things to them. And that way, when they begin to date, then their whole mind has changed because, again, you got to come better than that. Now you got to love me in a different way because I know what my father showed me. I know what my uncle showed me or my grandfather showed me or, even a cousin. Somebody showed me that, this is how a man is supposed to treat me. So when I start to get with a man that don't treat me those things, then that's when, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What are you doing here? So it puts you in a different mindset. But that helps prepare you for your husband. And that helps you able to begin to show love in a way like, oh, okay, so if a man can do this for me, if a man can respect me enough to come ring my doorbell and ask for me, if a man can respect enough for me to open up the door, maybe even order my food at table, at dinner, or, take the initiative to, hold my hand, make sure that when I'm walking down the street, I'm not on the curve, you know what I'm saying? Certain things like that help show me that a man cares about my well-being while I'm out here in the street. No. You don't walk ahead of me. You walk beside me, but you walk on the inside, because if something come on the outside, it's going to hit me first before it hits you. So that's showing me that you're going to protect me. You know what I'm saying? So these are the kind of things that we have to look for. And that, when us as women seeing those type of things, it's easy for us to begin to open up our heart to that person, because we see that that person really cares about us in a way that um, that we need, because we need to know that a man is going to protect us. You know what I'm saying? If something happened, we need to know that a man is going to stand up for us. We need to know that a man is going to respect us and care about us. Like, no, you ain't got no business doing that. I'll do this. So there's certain attributes like that that will help us love and help us care, and it will be easy for us to submit in marriage. The question came up about submission, and I had to look it up, because sometimes we know the definition, but we don't understand the definition. And the definition of submission is just an action or a fact in accepting or yielding to a superior force or the will of authority of another person. And we learn again, submitting first with God. Once we submit first to God, there's things that will be, God will show us, and we'll be able to, be humble with that, leading and directing us. So if we can submit ourselves to God first, it'll be easy to be able to submit to our husband. Our first submission should be to God. James 4:7 says, therefore submit to God. That's a command. Once we submit to him, guess what? Ain't nobody can come and hurt us, especially the enemy. Because guess what? If we're so busy concentrating on God, we're not giving no way to the enemy. So once we fully able to give ourselves to God, it would be easy for us to, give ourselves to our husband in submission in that, because the Bible says that wives ought to submit to their husbands, and that surely means that God has an order. He made the man the head. He has dominion, like Adam. Adam had dominion over everything. He was the head of everything. He was able to name everything, But the Bible, it came to a part where he noticed that he was by himself, and God created woman for him. And when he saw a woman, he saw Eve. He's like, bone in my bone, flesh in my flesh. He was excited because he finally had somebody for him. And in that, she became his wife. And she, it was easy for her to love, because God did something special in us that he didn't do in men. He allowed us to have a heart, of emotion and love. We didn't have to be directed to love, because it was already in us. He gave us something, that we can, we was going to become the mothers of the world. So how we can become mothers and be fruitful and multiply if we didn't already have love in us? So, God had to give the command to the man to love. So we didn't have to get the command, because it was already birthed in us. So it's easy for us to love. But when you're talking about, marriage, again, sometimes people say, even though God gave the direction for men to love, that men don't love, but I kind of find out that men love sometimes even harder than we do when they're in a relationship, but again, they're the alpha male, sometimes they don't like to show that vulnerability side of them, because, they're men, but they have just a bigger heart of gold than we do. And sometimes, they're not verbal with it as much as we are. Sometimes they show in their actions. It's just something that, sometimes we have to pay attention to. They're not going to always verbally tell us, that, they love us or something like that. Some men do, some men don't. But that doesn't mean, because you don't hear it, that doesn't mean that they don't love you. Sometimes they show you in other different ways that they love you and they care for you. So you just really have to just be open to see that kind of love, and you have to be open to give that kind of love. But again, once you submit yourself to God first, God will show you how to love. He will show you what kind of love is there for you. God will, there's a discerning spirit that He will give you in all of this, whether it's dating or in marriage. There is discerning, as long as you keep your relationship with God should never be broken for anything. You have the, whether you're married or not, as long as you keep your relationship with God and keep that connection with God, you will always see, and He will always show you things that will happen around you or that is happening, or He will always lead and guide you. But to always keep that opening ear to God, even in marriage. You never should be able to, just because you're married, now you don't need God no more. No, honestly, you need God even more. You need God even more, even in marriage, because if God is not in your marriage, how do you expect your marriage to be successful? How do you expect your marriage to grow? God has to be truly the center of it. God has to lead not only the husband but also the wife. And we have to make sure that even in that, prayer, your constant communication in prayer is vital in a marriage. If you cannot pray, if you have no prayer life, I feel sorry for you. But prayer is something that you cannot get away from, because as long as you're in, again, that constant communication in prayer with God, no matter what you and your husband come up against, you can overcome it. You can, because again, I've been married 13, 14 years, and out of those 13, 14 years, my husband, if he was in here, he'll tell you it was like twice that we were talking about divorce. But we're still here. So it goes to show you that sometimes in marriages, things ain't always going to be easy. But when you have a relationship with God and you allow God to be the center and be in the midst of it, and you guys come together, it all can be worked out. I pray a prayer all the time. Bond us with cords that cannot be broken. Because once you get married, everybody's desire is to stay married. And now I think, sometimes, when the rough times hit, a lot of people are so eager to just call it quits. But if you go back in history, my grandparents and them, they stayed together 50, 60, 70 years, no matter what they went through. It wasn't always good times, but, they stayed together. They had something that kept them together. They made it work. And they were our examples that if they can stay together that long, despite of, some of them went through depression stages, when it was no food in the world and they had to grow their own. And, sometimes, they had kids they had to feed, and they was wondering how they made it through those times. So if they can make it through those times, why are we so eager to, quit and give up so hard? But again, they had a foundation, which was God. And God has to be the foundation in everything.
That's so good. That's so good. What will you say are red flags, green flags, when it comes to dating? Like when it comes to the men that you see, not you specifically, but what do you think? What should we look for red flags, green flags? Okay.
Well, the red flags to me, if you see a guy and he doesn't have respect for himself, there's no need in you even trying to talk to him. And what I mean by that, no, seriously, what I mean by that, they have this trend now where men, they would like to wear their pants all down, half off their behind and dress in your kind of way. And I'm like, how is that attractive? If I was a single woman, why would I want my boyfriend or my significant other to be walking down the street with it showing his underwear? No. Pull your pants up. You know what I'm saying? So that is like a flat turn off for me. When I see, young guys standing on the corner, even in their pajama pants, and you see their boxers, and they, don't even have on a shirt, and they got on socks and a slide. And I'm like, how are you, why? Do you really think that's attractive? Like, if I'm a single woman and I'm that's not attractive to me. It's not attractive to me seeing y'all standing on the corner smoking weed and drinking and all other stuff. What are you going to do for me? So that's not the kind of life, especially in Christian dating, that we should be looking for. Because again, as you said earlier, a man that finds a wife finds a good thing. But again, we women, we see, just like they look at us, we look at them. But to me, that's a huge red flag. If you spending more time with your boys and doing things, don't have a certain maturity level, then what can you do for me? We can't be like this. There has to be some kind of evenness. You're doing something totally opposite of me. That's a red flag. If I'm not the one that, if I don't like drinking, I don't like smoking, I don't cuss, I don't listen to, this, whatever kind of music, we have no common ground. So why would I want you? You have to match. We got to match some kind of way. So to me, those are all red flags. But, this generation, sometimes they like the tough guy. They like the street corner guy and all. And I'm like, but what does he do for you? If your car breaks down, is he gonna leave his boys off the corner and come rescue you? Let's be for real. If I don't drink, why are you messing with somebody that drinks? Because eventually, what he do, you're gonna end up doing. So all of those is like red flags. If you see somebody that is not on the same page with you, leave it alone. Green flags. A man that's respectable, a man that carries himself like he's about something, a man that I think a lot of times now we want a guy that has a relationship with God. We want to see somebody in the church and is free with God, just like we are. To me, it's nothing more attractive to see a guy that's not afraid to praise the Lord, that's not afraid to show that they have a relationship with God first. Because if you see that in him, that he respects God, that he reverence God, that he loves God, so that means that's a person that God is preparing, that is making, he's already possibly a husband. So to me, I want somebody that is free in God just as much as I am. That's what I call a green flag. If you don't have a relationship with God and I have a relationship with God, so to me, that's probably the most attractive male that could be for anybody that is seeking a husband. If you see a man that is submissive to God, that honors God, that loves God, that is free in praising God, that doesn't mind dancing for God, and he's for real. That is a green flag. Because if he respects God, he respects himself, and he's going to respect you.
That's good. Can you talk a bit about like your single life and segue into your married life? What's that like?
My single life wasn't always easy. I didn't always get with the right people, even knowing, even having a relationship with God, even growing up in the church. As I was dating, I would make it known that, look, I go to church. I love God. Those are certain things that I would say, even in dating. Some people can handle that. Some people didn't. Oh, you a church girl? Yeah, I'm a church girl. So if you don't see me on Sundays, or if you don't see me, on Wednesday nights or whatever, I'm in church. And that sometimes was hard because it became lonely because, a lot of guys didn't want to hear about church. They didn't want to deal with nobody that went to church, and sometimes that can be a very lonely life when you desire to be in a relationship. So a lot of times, sometimes I got with the wrong people because I wanted companionship. because I wanted to, I got tired of seeing everybody else in relationships, and I'm like, well, what's wrong with me? And sometimes in that I got hurt because, again, God said, wait, I have somebody for you, but a lot of times we get in our flesh, and we get, we listen to our heart, and we want this and we want that, and we go out and get with somebody that sometimes treat us good, and then we get with those ones like, what in the world was I thinking? Why did I do this? And you go through those tests and trials until the right one come along. So, dating, not to say that I dated a lot, but those that I did date, wasn't always good relationships. If I want to be honest, it wasn't always, something I got my heart broke. It's times where I went home crying, and wondering why, what did I do so wrong? I'm a good person, but sometimes it was because I didn't wait, and sometimes when you don't wait on God, and you try to fix things yourself, you always mess up. But when I did get with my husband, um, there were some challenges in the beginning, because, again, there were some things, he was just coming out of a relationship, and so was I. So we were both kind of skating on, should we not? But we're enjoying our, company. Um, so we had to get past, certain things. We both had guards up, because of, again, our previous relationships. But we got to the point where we realized that we had something more than we thought. And we ended up getting married. And we didn't have the traditional wedding. I didn't want the traditional wedding. I had that already. He had that already. And I was like, look, the most important thing right now for me is the marriage itself. We got married on a Monday night. And his father performed the ceremony. My dad was out of town, but we had my father on speakerphone at the time. We have like video chat at that time too much, and our closest friends and family was there, and we were happy. That mattered more to us than having a big old extravagant wedding, paying all these thousands of dollars. We didn't want that. We wanted to just be united, and that's what we did. And once we did that, I ain't gonna tell a lie. It was like a big weight that was off, because sometimes in single life you want something more. The closer you get to the person that you're seeing, you want to go other steps with them that you can't yet because you're not married. You don't have that ring. So it was like a lot of moments that, I'm not gonna lie, we did fall short before the wedding, and afterwards there was some guilt because we knew God, and we knew, we were convicted, and I think that part really pushed us more closer to saying, you know what, instead of us keep doing this, the Bible said it's better to marry than to burn. So we was like, look, let's just do this and do this the right way. And once we did it the right way, it was like, whew, now we're free. Now we don't have to worry about certain things. So it was once we got married, it was so much better, for our relationship. Um, and from that day to this, like I said, we still here. We still have some things that we push past that we still go through, but we make it work.
Sorry, my computer did a thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's gone. I don't even know where we left off at. I don't. It just
Um,
thing.
we were talking about, um, the single life versus the marriage life.
Yeah.
So again, to me, single life is hard because you have, like I said, the desires and some things that you want, but God will keep you. God really will keep you in that single life. And even if you are single and are looking to be a wife, um, wait on God. Wait on God to lead you to your husband, because He's definitely going to lead your husband to you. And sometimes, we get impatient. We like, God, where is our husband? Where's my husband? I want this. I've been praying and asking you. But the waiting period sometimes is the toughest period. But my advice is to continue to wait on God and watch Him give you the person that He specifically created for you. Because trust me, He's out there. He's out there. He's waiting. He's waiting for you. He can't wait to find you. But again, sometimes there's some more preparation time that God is doing in you and in Him before He brings y'all together. So, as hard as it, may be to wait, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew His strength. So just wait, and trust me, in that waiting, it's going to be worth it after a while.
That's so good. That's so good. So I know you watch my show. At the end, I always segue to this. Can you sing a little bit of your?
Sing, child. No, we don't do that. I'm not a singer. You're not going to be dancing out of me.
Favorite worship song, or the song that takes you in? Just a little bit. You don't have to sing a whole song.
Well, the one song that really takes me in, your mom sings, and when she sings that, it really takes me to a level even higher in God, because it brings you into pure worship. It brings you into a place where your personal relationship with God, and it really just, it brings me to tears, because I sincerely, truly love Him so much. I sincerely, truly realize that just to envision Him standing on a cross with a crown of thorns on His head, with piercing in His side, with nails in His wrists and His feet, hanging there, dripping in blood. That vision alone, to me, I'm getting emotional. It just puts me in a sense like He really died for me. I wasn't even here. I wasn't even thought of. I wasn't nowhere to be found. But He did that and sacrificed Himself for me, just so I could have a relationship mended back to His Father. Just so I can have a place that when I leave here, I have a place that I can go to. So your mom sings this song, I love you, Jesus, I worship and adore you. I just had to tell you that I love you more than anything. And when I think of those words, I'm getting teary now just thinking about it. It's truly, truly for real for me. It sends me into a thing that I space out everything and everybody when I hear that song, because it's true. The love I have for Christ is more than anything in this world. It's more than my children. It's more than my husband. It's more than anything He has given me. And it just breaks me down to a place like, God, I truly love you just as much as you loved me when you went to Calvary. Because had you not done that, the world that we know now would not be the world that we will live in. Had you not done that, I would be forever, ever, forever lost. Um, so that song right there, more than anything.
It's a good song. It's a really
That's,
good
that's
song. If you guys don't know it, it's a song that does take you in. I'm very, very if somebody asks me to sing at any time, I'm very, 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 very wary about the songs that I choose to sing, because there are certain songs that we're not going to get through the song, and that is one of those songs that we're not going to get through. So just don't
yeah.
expect. So, yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. This is good. This is really, really good. I'm so glad that we did this. I really wanted to have a woman's perspective on dating, because at the end of the day, you know, we are the helpmate. I'm pretty sure men or a man will do just fine on their own. But just like God saw Adam by himself, he said, yeah, no, he needs somebody. So he sent somebody for him. Actually, he created her out of his rib. So it's just like, yeah, men will be fine on their own. But it's really us that God was like, nah, they need something. We are the something. We're the special something. And so it was really important that I had a woman come and talk about that
Because
special.
we become their peace. We become their peace. If we can create an environment that when they come home from work, that they can exhale and they can breathe and they have a home cooked meal and they have different things. That's our place. That place that we can provide for them. That when they come home out of the world, they come into another world that just they know that they're loved. They know that they're appreciated. They know that they um, have someone and a family that adores them just as much as he adores them. Because what you give them is what they're going to give you back.
Yeah, this is good.
So if we give them, we know how to multiply. That was our command from the beginning, right? Be fruitful and multiply. So if they bring home the groceries, we're supposed to multiply those groceries and give him a dinner. Um, if they, we already know when you know, they are with us, we able to give them a baby. So there's certain things that we can make better, and what better way is to make our home better for them, and it, sometimes it's tough, but again, what you give him is what he's going to give you. So if you give him love, you're going to receive love. If you complaining and doing all kinds of other things, if you put him in that environment, he ain't gonna want to come home. so you got to make sure that your home is a place where you want him to come to and he wants to come to. Because no man wants to come home to a complaining wife, a nagging wife, a wife that's not going to clean, a wife that's not going to cook, a wife that is just miserable. You're going to run him out into the arms of somebody else. And I'm going to leave that alone.
Thank you, guys. I pray that this episode, along with the other one, this is kind of like a series I'm doing, like Kingdom Woman, Kingdom Dating, Kingdom Marriage. So I pray that this bless you, and we'll see you next week. All right.